Cillian Murphy. How are you doing, Cillian?
I'm grand, thanks.
It's very nice to have you in the studio.
Nice to be here.
Thank you very much. Now, the last time we spoke to you was for Inception.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're sorry that it bombed. It did. That must have been a hard thing to live with.
Bad choice, or what?
Yeah, it did okay.
Yeah.
It did okay.
Because when we did the interview, we kind of didn't. I mean, it was Mark was thinking, well, maybe this is just too smart to be a huge blockbuster hit. Were you bowled over by the way it happened? Did part of you think, I know this is this is a really smart film, and I know this is going to be big? I mean, what did you think?
No, you never know. Anything. I still don't. So watching it was amazing, and it made sense of all the things you weren't involved in. But I think nobody predicted it would do as well as it did, and that people would sort of... I think when people go back to see a film again, it's always a good sign, sort of commercially, and I think for the film. But I think it's great that a film like that did do so well, because what Chris Nolan does or doesn't do is underestimate his audience. He makes really challenging films, and people respond to that, I think.
Are we sufficiently removed from Inception to discuss the final shot?
No, because I think there are still some people who are. I mean, you can only discuss it in very vague terms, but I think it is still recent enough that you can't discuss the final shot or Michael Caine's misreading of it.
Right. I'm referring to the thing which is.
Yeah, we all know what you're referring to.
So
everyone who's listening, who's seen the film, knows what you're referring to. Everyone who is listening who hasn't seen the film, don't explain it anymore. But you can ask a question, but only.
All right. That final scene.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think that's probably about as much as we need to go into that.
The most important thing about Inception is the fact that it did effectively, it marked an industrial change in the landscape of the way blockbusters are done, because what Nolan demonstrated was, by treating the mainstream multiplex audience as every bit as smart as the audience that he thought he had when he was making films like Memento, and actually I've always held that the Batman movies are essentially art house movies posing as massive blockbusters. What he did was demonstrate... Posing very successfully. No, but what he did was he demonstrated that whole Hollywood idea that you cannot spend $160 million and be that smart because you will scare the audience away was wrong. And I do think that since then we have seen a sea change in the way that people have approached. There's no longer the old excuse, which is, I'm sorry, it's dumb because it's expensive. Because when a movie like Inception, it didn't just do well, it did staggeringly well. And it was fun. I mean, we talked about this briefly. It was funny how, in the wake of it opening, everyone who had everyone was nervous beforehand, and then everyone was coming up with theories about it was because of this or it was because of that, and I read one theory in the newspaper that said Warner Brothers are just allowing Christopher Nolan to do it as a sort of indulgence because he's made because the last time a studio allowed somebody to indulge themselves to the tune of $160 million was when I think it was the best movie of the year, and it was, from an industrial point of view, a real turning point. There is no longer any excuse for blockbusters to be stupid, because you have proven that being intelligent will not scare the audience away.
That was sort of a question.
No, it wasn't. It was just a statement, just to get it out of the way.
It was a long statement.
Well, I think that I would not agree with that, and it's great to be involved in it. I think Black Swan was also very important in that regard as well, in terms of a film like that, which was essentially an art house film, I suppose. And having such a big, huge box office as well, and being kind of a challenging, odd movie, and I thought that was great as well. It showed that people would go and see something like that.
You have viewed from my point of view, you have an extraordinary place in acting now, because you have movies like the Batman movies, and you have movies like Inception, and yet you always make a point of turning up in the. We're going to talk about the smaller film that you're in. Movie, which is called Retreat, which we'll discuss in a moment. But presumably you can pick and choose now. But to be able to do the really, really small films and make them something special, and then step into a $160 million budget movie, must be a fantastic place for an actor to be.
Well, it is great to go from one to the other. I'm sure actors say this to you all the time, but it is the truth. There is no kind of plan or grand scheme. You don't know what's going to arrive on the doorstep or in your inbox, as it is now, but you just try and follow the good stories, and sometimes it's in a massive budget studio picture, and sometimes it's a little, as Retreat was, a little movie in Wales.
But presumably after doing one or two of, whether it be small or large, were you thinking it would be quite nice to change?
There's definitely, I like, for example, Retreat. It was like it was a really, like, film is by nature collaborative, but when you're all, like, the whole crew and the actors and the director just stuck in a house on the side of a hill in Wales, it really makes it super collaborative, and everybody's mucking in. Everybody's there, not because they're getting paid or not because it's glamorous or it's a nice location. Everybody's there to make a good film, and there's something kind of pure about that. I mean, Chris Nolan manages to achieve that on a massive scale because everybody's there for the right reason as well. But when it's that tiny a budget and it's a story that small, you really have to be there.
So are you saying that the house, which people will see when they go to see Retreat, which is a scary enough house anyway?
It's the producer's house, isn't it? So
you all stay?
No, I don't think it is.
It is, because I've seen it's a house that belongs to somebody involved in the production. Because I've heard the director discussing it. They looked at all these other houses, and then somebody involved in the production said, "I've got a house," and it turned out to be that.
Right. Well, it was a lovely old house, but quite remote. And
so, did you not have a trailer?
No, there wasn't any point really, because we were working all the time. That's the good thing about these films as well. You don't hang around much. You're just working all the time. So we were sitting in the front room or whatever.
Okay, so explain this house. Where is it? And you and Tandy Newton are married. Just explain the setup.
I mean, in the story, it's in the sort of wilds of Scotland, an island in the wilds of Scotland, a sort of fictional island. But where we actually shot it was on the mainland of Wales. But so we go there. We've been there before in our marriage. The marriage is kind of on the rocks a little bit, for whatever reason, and we go there to try and get some of that magic back as a couple. They're sort of your traditional or sort of average London sort of professional couple who go there, and then Jamie Bell comes along and ruins it.
Well, they find Jamie. We have I know we're going to hold the news back, but can we just do this because he set it up to it? So they find Jamie Bell wounded outside. They bring him into the house. They bring him back to life. He looks like he's about to, and then he wakes up and says, "No, we can't do that." Okay, we'll do the clip after the news.
Oh, okay. So what kind of thing was he saying?
No, we'll do it after the news. I've got it on the clip. We'll do Jamie. We'll go to the news, then we'll come back and hold that thought. Yeah. That was
good. I was carried along with the power and majesty.
Thank you.
Of your relatives.
I just thought that Cillian was so brilliantly leading into the clip in such a perfect, seamless way.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk more about Retreat, which is the new movie from Cillian Murphy and Jamie Bell and Tandy Newton, and everyone lives in the same house. Who owns the house? We're not sure, even though Cillian was actually in the house. Mark knows more about the house.
Well, this is from the extras that are going on the Blu-ray disc, because they sent me them to look at, and which I watched them, and there's a whole thing about it. But that may be baloney.
You're better informed than I am.
The house is probably for sale. The whole movie is probably just a way of selling the house. Is there a tour around it? You know, someone from Stratton Parker or something. Here you go, 160 grand. Well, what do you think?
No, but that'd be a great advert. You know that house in which all those horrible things happen to that nice couple? Buy this.
And a text, and I'm just taking this on face value, says, "Hello, I'm the producer. It wasn't my house. We found it on the internet. Cillian is right."
Well, there's okay. I definitely have got the extras that they sent me on the Blu-ray disc, because the Blu-ray comes out pretty soon. I think it opens in cinemas today, and then it's out on Blu-ray next week. And in the Blu-ray featurette, it appears there's a whole thing about we went and found this house, and then somebody who was working in production just said, "I've got this other." So I stand corrected, but then somebody needs to re-edit the Blu-ray DVD, the Blu-ray, whatever.
Maybe you just fell asleep and you've just
or maybe I'm right and everyone else right. Anyway, because on the podcast they're going to edit this, right? I'm going to go from me saying he wakes up and he says this, then there's going to be the news, and we're going to come straight into the clip. All right?
On the production notes.
No. Wait. Do it after the clip. Okay, wait. What? Wakes up and says this.
There's been an outbreak. A global pandemic that started in South America. R1N16, or Gramado flu. It's a highly contagious airborne virus that's attacking respiratory systems. From those infected, there are no survivors. It's fatal, and it's spreading rapidly. It's only a matter of time before it's here. If your radio was working, you'd have heard the broadcasts. Now, our best defense is to make this place safe. I'm going to
Wait, what? What exactly are you telling me?
I'm telling you that there's a highly contagious and fatal disease on its way here. And we need to protect ourselves.
So they're all then in the house. The question are, who is this guy? Is he telling the truth? Is there really a virus outside? Is he on the run from somebody? All those questions are raised. There we go. Oh, that set it up nice, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, fine.
Absolutely.
Now you can move on.
But
with
the one thing that is absolutely patently clear is that Jamie is, which is not spoiling, is a very scary guy indeed.
Yeah, he's brilliant in the film. Yeah, amazing. And really terrifying. I think what makes him more terrifying is you're not sure ever about him, do you know? And because he's very, very charming and very kind of...
Unhinged.
Convincing, yeah, but in a kind of a crazy way. But to me, it's not clear, and that to me is more frightening. Do you know, when you're not sure where you stand ever with them.
And it's directed by the writer, and it's the first feature he's directed. Does that? I mean, how do you know if a writer is capable of it? Because obviously, it's a stripped down, three-hander, tight. Imagine fairly tight shooting schedule. How did you have confidence in him to know he's a writer? He's going to be able to direct this.
You don't when you work with the first-time director, but the script was very well formed, and it was very tight, and he really knew. I mean, I think there's a sort of a genre evolved from. People not having a lot of money to shoot films, so they shoot them in one location, and sort of, necessity becomes the mother of invention. I think that this was very much the case in this film, but Carl really knew what he wanted, and he was very clear about when the moments of tension needed to be arrived at, and he was very clear on the character's journey. But also, what I think is important is that he was very open to collaboration. And
what does that mean? You can all chip in a bit?
Yeah, I mean, because it was just three actors, and because actors have instincts, he was very open to that, and I think as a result, he really pulled it off.
It's one of those ones. It's difficult to discuss really anymore, really, because there are a number of points.
You can't give away the twists.
No, well, and there are a number of. They say, oh right, oh okay, oh right. There's that spinning thing. Oh okay.
Yeah.
So really, that's probably.
No, but what you can say is that the whole point of it is that in the end it comes down to three characters, and how much each of them knows about the other. And during the course of the drama, their allegiances appear to some extent to change. So so that's what you need to know. And also the fact that they've marketed it with this weird tagline, which is "Straw Dogs meets 28 Days Later," which I have to say, as taglines go. I wouldn't have gone with Straw Dogs meets 28 Days Later. It sounds.
I don't really understand taglines, but what I would say is great about these types of films is that when the audience looks at me, what I do anyway when I watch them is what the hell would I do in that situation?
Exactly. And the great thing about your character, Cillian, is that I thought that's the kind of person that I would be if I was stuck in a house with a madman. Like Jamie Bell, because let's be honest, you're a bit of a wimp. I mean, you're a little bit hopeless.
He goes through stages in the film.
At the beginning,
yeah. At the beginning, yeah. He's kind of the put upon husband. I think.
I mean, you almost let Jamie Bell sort of do his thing because you're a little bit too embarrassed to stop him.
I want to be in his gang, for a while. But I think it's very interesting the way the dynamic shifts and that sort of mano a mano thing and the power of a woman in the middle of it, and all of that stuff is very interesting. I mean, for me, any sort of genre piece is interesting if it works on other levels. Do you know what I mean? I think this is kind of quite human in terms of the relationship, particularly between the husband and the wife, and how that sort of is at a bad stage. Then through this guy coming in, it has a weirdly positive effect on it for a period anyway. Do you know? And
it's almost like a play. Isn't it?
I guess so. It's a chamber piece, I guess so.
Well, but I would say it's a good, efficient, stripped down, B movie, which I like. I mean, it's in the way that's what B movies used to be like. It was a single idea, a small cast, a single location, then you play every single, like a little Rubik's cube. You play every single side of it. I mean, actually, it's the lack of pretentiousness about it that's the point. I don't mean B movie as a criticism, but
absolutely, I agree.
That is what I think it
agree.
is.
And I think it's great for actors to play those parts. For the three of us, for me, Tandy and Jamie, just to get together and really get stuck in. It's great. And like I said, there's no waiting around.
You haven't got the money to wait around.
Yeah, so you're just working all the time, which is, it's the waiting around they pay you for.
And how unusual is it? Because if I understand this right, it's coming. So it's a cinematic release today, and it's out on
October the 17th, which is Monday, according to the press release. But then again, obviously, don't trust the press release
on a DVD. That's quite unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it's happening more and more. I mean, we turn up and just say the lines and then go home, and then they.
I think you did a little bit more than that.
Well, in terms of how they market it and release these things, actors are never sort of privy to it. But I believe that this sort of multi-platform thing is happening more and more.
Multi-platform is going to be the future of all cinema anyway. Everything is going to be released simultaneously day and date, and then people are going to decide if they want to see it in the cinema or at home. On the subject of larger budget movies, are you in the new Batman?
Yeah, okay. Well, okay. I was going to do In Time first, but we can do. What can you tell us more about In Time or Batman?
I can't tell you anything about Batman.
Okay, let me ask you questions, then you can block them. Okay, are you in it?
Listen, I'm not going to contribute to the rumours or speculation that are out there. I think the film itself will be amazing. So I don't.
Isn't it being filmed at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you in it at the moment?
In Time, however, is a...
How's working with Wally Pfister? The greatest DP in the world.
Oh, he's... Okay.
He's shooting the new Batman movie. So obviously Cillian will have seen a lot of him because he's obviously in it. That's why he's not telling us anything.
You can't embarrass our guests. Clearly, I imagine what happens is you sign pieces of paper on movies, movies such as this, in which you guarantee you don't talk about it.
Yeah, I can talk about In Time if you want, and I can talk about Wally Pfister, who is an amazing DP and has worked with Chris all the way up.
He's fantastic, isn't he?
Really is, and a gentleman to boot.
When was the last time you saw him?
I've worked with Wally on several occasions.
Have you?
Yeah.
I think I could tell you as much about the new Batman film.
No, I don't think there's any. The film is going to be extraordinary.
How do you know?
Because that's what Chris Nolan makes, extraordinary films. So.
How is Chris?
The last time I saw him, he was great.
Which was that?
Lads, I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm not.
Let him go. He's suffered.
No, okay.
I don't mean let him go out of the room, but I think we've prodded him enough.
Yeah. When? Okay, go on. There's no point in taking
catch
it
him
any
off
further.
guard.
So In Time, because we're still in at the other end of spectrum to movies like Retreat. What can you tell us about that?
In Time, that's I guess it's more sort of traditional science fiction from writer-director Andrew Niccol, who made Gattaca about 10 years ago.
It's a very good film.
It's a great film. He's a great sort of original writer and director, and so that's very much in this kind of almost like a companion piece, I think, to it. And the premise is that in the future, the currency is time. And when you hit the age of 25, your body clock stops and you have 1 year to live, and you can extend your life by like sort of trading and working and all of that. So, but everybody's 25. And that's the sort of
That's a bit like Radio 1 in the 80s. Everyone was 25. It didn't matter how old you actually were. How old are you? 25. Yeah, absolutely. That's the way it was.
Maybe where we've got the idea from, I don't know.
And out on the 1st of November, Justin Timberlake?
Yeah, Justin Timberlake, Amanda Seyfried are the sort of lead couple in it. And I'm the cop, detective, future timekeeper who's chasing them down.
Well, is it going to appeal in that kind of intelligent sci-fi that you're talking? Is that going to appeal to the Inception fans? Do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I seem to have done a few kind of science fiction films, but it's genuinely not by choice. It's just I'm attracted to kind of what I perceive to be original ideas, and I thought this is a great, cracking concept, and I really like Andrew, and I was supposed to work with him before and I didn't, so I don't know. You really never know. You've just got to trust your instinct and see.
One of the great shames was that Sunshine wasn't seen by more people, because I think that's a fantastic, intelligent science fiction movie. And the story was that apparently it opened on the hottest day of the year.
Oh, did
so yes, apparently the day that Sunshine opened was boiling hot. So that was one of those things which didn't end up doing the box office to them. But that is a really, really good science fiction, a proper grown-up science fiction film.
I think a few people, it began to find its place in that sort of sci-fi,
canon.
Yes, that's the word. And a lot of people say that to me. But I think Danny Boyle and Alex Garland are a great team. Again, in that big conceptual kind of ideas. And,
some correspondence here. Rory says, hi chaps, I'm a long time podcast listener but first time webcam watcher. I'm glad I tuned in today. Cillian is simply the finest actor of his generation. I saw him in Dublin Airport. I thought it was some kind of theatre, but this is a travelling reference. One Christmas, but chickened out of approaching him for an autograph. Reading out this text will go some way to helping me get over the regret I've had ever since. No pressure. So, it was quite good. He held back. He saw you there. He respected your space.
Well, that's very nice. Thanks, Mel, Rory.
Jordan Bowers in Southport. Could you tell Cillian I'm a huge fan of his work? One of my favourite moments of his is him and Brendan Gleeson dancing in Womble's costumes in Breakfast on Pluto. Can you also ask him after working with Danny Boyle and Christopher Nolan, this is who is better? And if that's an awkward question to answer, which one of them would win in a fight? That's a much better question, in a kind of a TV burp kind of a way. So Danny Boyle versus Christopher Nolan in a fisticuffs fight.
Oh, God, I'm terrible at this. Could I just maybe have an arm wrestle or something?
Well, there's not much to Danny. I mean, he's a great director, but he's quite thin.
I think their mutual respect would just not allow them to get physically into an altercation. I think they would have just too much respect for each other.
And that's why you're a very employed actor. Stephen and Milton Keynes, great you've got the excellent Cillian Murphy on today. I have to say, excellent film Red Eye, which he starred in with the gorgeous Rachel McAdams from a few years ago. Simple plot, great acting. Make a follow-up, please, because let's face it, can I say this? The baddie got shot in the end but didn't actually die. Can I say that?
Well, you just did, so well done.
But
actually, funny enough, Red
there
Eye
must come a point where we can discuss films and their endings. there must be one.
But Red Eye is an interesting comparison because Red Eye again is something, and I like Red Eye very much, but I describe as a sort of stripped down B movie type scenario, which I think worked very well. And of course, you were working with a very fine director on it, so So
what's your take on spoilers then, Cillian? Because clearly, when we're discussing movies, clearly if it's a movie that's out now or has been out, let's say this year. Fine, you have to be absolutely, but there must come a point.
Well, I think there's this kind of like insatiable appetite nowadays for getting the script and reading it, and bloggers saying or taking photographs of people on set or whatever it may be, and it's kind of a shame in one way. I guess it's inevitable, but going into a movie without knowing what's going to happen,
it's a very good thing.
It is brilliant, and I know we can't always have that. Some films it doesn't matter, I guess, if you know, but for others it's nice to have that surprise, And I mean, it gets silly when you get sent scripts and they will like self-destruct in whatever time, or you get some they have them, they go off your email, or they call and they give them to you and they take them away.
Is that right?
Some of them do, yeah.
Now, Mark wants to put me in my place and mention The Great Gatsby. So just do.
This is just briefly because I said, in the new Woody Allen film, the character goes back in time to Paris and he meets Scott Fitzgerald, right? And somebody said, you have to know a bunch to know all that stuff. And I said, well, actually, it's pretty broad. Somebody goes, this is Scott Fitzgerald, this is Zelda Fitzgerald, this is Ernest Hemingway, and then I said to my, and it's fairly obvious. I mean, Scott Fitzgerald keeps saying old sport,
right?
Because.
Well, I've read The Great Gatsby.
There we go. So there we go. Thank you.
But what does that prove? An actor has read The Great Gatsby.
No, but he hasn't read it because he's an actor.
How do you know?
Cillian, did you read The Great Gatsby because you're an actor and Baz Luhrmann asked you to be in the 3D version, or did you read it because you're an intelligent human being who realises it's one of the greatest novels ever written? Or did you read it at school?
Baz Luhrmann hasn't asked me. No, I read it. I read it when I was a teenager, and I reread it again actually a couple of years ago just to see if it was still as good. But no, just because I remember it being brilliant. But I don't quite get the reference.
Well, because old sport, because Gatsby calls everybody old sport, so Fitzgerald calls everybody old sport.
So someone who's read the book twice also didn't get the reference. So as a reference goes, it's not great.
Can you recite The Great Gatsby?
I can't recite.
In my younger, more vulnerable years, my father gave me a piece of advice I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Just remember, you say whenever you feel like criticising everyone's had the advantage you've had.
The last two lines are...
And so we beat on boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past.
There you go.
Right, so I think what we've hit on is actually just part of his obsessive personality. It's got nothing to do with literature, knowledge or intelligence. That's my take. Cillian's got that look in his face. Let me out.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Have fun on the new Batman film. Anyway, say hi to Wally for me.
I won't be able to do that, I'm afraid.
Bang out of order. Bang out of order. Cillian, it's always a real pleasure to have you on the show and appreciate that.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure, as always.
Apart from In Time and apart from the thing which we can't mention, anything else that you can tell us about an exciting project which we need to know?
Oh, yes. I did this film with Rodrigo Cortés, who directed Buried last week.
Oh, yeah.
It's his new film, which we shot in Barcelona this year, and that comes out in January, February, or something like that.
Buried is extraordinary. I mean, it just scared the life out of me.
Yeah, he's a real talent. Brilliant man. So he wrote this one and directed it. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of great Spanish filmmakers around at the moment. So.
Cillian Murphy, we appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Now.
And Cillian's movie is out today. It's called Retreat, and then it's out on DVD next week. Cillian, he's one of those people who... however you take a photograph of him, he just looks terrific, right? So he's sort of gazing stage left. And Bob Ballard is in it. He kind of spoils the picture, to be honest, with all respect to Bob. But he's got a microphone right across his face.